Okay, today we're talking about inequalities. Inequalities are algebraic sentences. They're a lot like equations, but an equation, it has a definite solution. An inequality is more like an open-ended sentence. Instead of saying something like, uh, x is equal to a number, say like 2. This is a definite thing. When we say x is equal to 2, the only thing that x could possibly ever be is 2. But with an inequality, we have a range of solutions. So what that means is if I say x is greater than 2, then could x be equal to 3? Well, yeah, because 3 is greater than 2. X could be equal to 2.1. It could be equal to anything that's a larger number than 2. Whether it's fractions, anything as long as it's greater than 2. It can't be 2 in this case because we're saying x is greater than 2. 2 is not a part of that anymore. 2 is just like our starting point. Okay, so here's examples of both the inequality and how they're graphed. So if we say x is equal to 5, then we want to be able to graph this on a number line. To graph it on a number line, we just want to look at the part of the number line that's important to us. So let's say 5 would be in the middle. Numbers lower than 5 would be to your left. Numbers greater than 5 would be to your right. And if x is equal to 5, then at the point where 5 is located, we just want to draw a closed-in little circle to say this is it. X is equal to 5, and this is where it would be located on a number line. If we're looking at the situation where we're saying x is less than 5 down here, an inequality, well, that would be graphed much differently. It would still be on a number line in one dimension. We're going to write 5 in the middle because we're still looking at the part of the number line that's just important to us. Numbers lower to the left, numbers greater to the right. And we're still going to mark 5 because 5 is our jumping off point, but this time I want to leave an open circle because I don't want to include 5 anymore. And what I want to do is draw a little arrow going from 5 to all the numbers that satisfy that inequality, which is anything less than 5. And if you look, this is true. 4 is less than 5. 3 is less than 5. But over here, these 6, 7, and 8, and anything else that would be, like, say, way over here, that wouldn't work. 8 is not, it's an ugly 8. 8 is not less than 5. So we don't want to cover that with our arrow. All right, so let's just quickly talk about what the different symbols of inequality are and what they mean. The first one we already looked at a little bit, and that's the less than symbol. If you have any trouble remembering which one's less than and which one's greater than, you can always kind of think less than. If you tilt your head a little bit to the right, it kind of looks like an L, which is the beginning of the word less than. You're going to have to know how to translate from verbal expressions into both inequalities and graphs. So let's take a look. An example is a number is less than 6. If we have a number that is less than 6, we would write that, we would follow it exactly the way it's written. A number, that could be our variable x, because it's unknown, is less than. The is kind of an important part of this. Is less than is this symbol, kind of looks like an L, and 6, which are our starting point. And if we want to graph that, again, we want to look at the part of the number line that's important to us. So 6 in the middle, numbers less than 6 to the left, numbers greater than 6 to the right, and because it's just less than, it actually doesn't include 6, right? This number can't be 6. We're going to start at 6 with an open circle and draw an arrow from that open circle covering all of the possible values. Make sure you have an arrow at the end of it. A little trick if you have any trouble with graphing it, figuring out which direction the arrow is supposed to go in, is a little trick for you is if you have it set up where the variable is on the left-hand side, like this, right, and your jumping off point is on the right-hand side like this, you can take a look at the symbol of inequality. As long as it's set up like that where the variable's on the left, this thing is kind of like an arrow that would tell you which direction your line's going to point in. So as long as it's set up x is less than 6, the arrow is going to head back to the left. Greater than is pretty much just like less than, except it's going to include numbers that are greater than our jumping off point. So again, a number is greater than 10. X is greater than 10. And to graph it, all we want to do is look at the part of the number line that's important to us. So 10 in the middle, number is less than 10 to the left, number is greater than 10 to the right. Open circle at 10, and we can see our arrow is pointing to the right, and that makes sense because 11, 12, and 13 are numbers that are greater than 10. Less than or equal to. That looks just like the less than symbol. It's got it looks like a little L, except it has this little half of an equal, that bar underneath, and that's because it has something to do with equality. So the difference is, now instead of saying, if we have something like x is, our example from down here is, let me just write it down there, a number is less than or equal to 6, well, we just want to write a number is less than or equal to 6. What that means is now that number is not just our jumping off point anymore. Now x could be 6 or anything less than 6. And the only big difference in graphing that is we're still going to start looking at the part of the number line that matters to us. So 6 in the middle, numbers less than 6 to the left, and numbers greater than 6 to the right. And we still want to put a circle at 6, but now, because we're including 6, we want to fill in that circle. And a little trick to help you remember is that if there's extra ink down here underneath the symbol of inequality, then you need to have extra ink in here. Everything still works the same way. Our arrow is going to cover the values less than 6 and point in the same direction as our symbol of inequality, and that's it. Greater than is as similar to, greater than or equal to, I should say, or equal to. That is going to be the same as less than or equal to. Same thing, this little bar underneath means that we're including our starting point. So a number is greater than or equal to 10. Well, x is greater than or equal to, that's the little bar underneath, 10. Graph it the same way, 10 in the middle, number is less than 10 to the left, number is greater than 10 to the right. Circle at 10, extra ink down here, extra ink in here. And since it's set up with x on the left-hand side, we can go ahead and follow our arrow so that it's covering all of the numbers greater than or equal to 10.